Hello, legendary listeners, and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. I almost did what Kat did last week. I almost said the Legends of Tomorrow podcast.
It's hard to get out of the habit once you've gotten into the habit.
Welcome to the podcast formerly known as the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. We are now the Legendary Ladies podcast. Only this week, it's just the two of us. So Morgan and I are here. Kat is busy running her most successful Kickstarter to date.
The last time I checked, it was definitely up to like at least 30 grand.
It's at almost
more.
40,000 right now. And it's been going on
God.
since Monday. So if anyone...
In 1 week.
like 4 days. So
I was I know I'm going to be the difference here, but like I haven't even donated to this thing yet. And
Me
it's
neither.
Already, I was like, it's already like $35,000. How's that possible?
Honestly, because I know that Kat loves her things, but this, like, the second she started describing it, I was like, oh, I've always supported Kat's Kickstarters. The two of us always support Kat's Kickstarters. But this is the one where I'm like, oh no, you're gonna get me every single time. The Beast and Snow. It's all about a vampiric Snow White who has to rescue Belle from the Beast.
And it's spicy.
Oh, it's real spicy.
It's not as safe for work.
She showed me some of the not censored panels at Comic-Con, and I was like, all right.
Spicy.
All right.
Okay then.
Okay then. So this week on the Legendary Ladies podcast, this is going to be one of those duo episodes where it's Morgan and I, and we have decided to do a pilot pod because I don't know if anyone has seen it, but the Dragon Prince has been all over. It's been it does that thing where it sort of re-explodes. Like last season it was kind of but this season has been really popular on the intersphere of the internet. And so we decided to go back and watch the pilot and do a pilot pod. So I'm caught up on seasons 1 through 4, which they call it books in the style of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I've seen books 1 through 4. Morgan has only seen a small segment of it and really hasn't touched it for a couple of years. So Morgan, what's kind of your history with the Dragon Prince?
Yeah, so I looked at Netflix today when I was going back to watch the pilot, and I realized that it seems like we got through about episode 7 of the first season. We never made it all the way to the end, which I don't know how that happens, but happens to us frequently where we just kind of peter out on something. We'll go back to it, and we never did. But yeah, I think I watched that. I remember that it was before my now husband moved into my place. So we were dating, and I watched it at his apartment. So I was like, "Oh, this brings me back."
That's so cute.
That really that dates it. I mean, so it's been years, frankly, since I've watched the first season. So it was fun to kind of go back and be like, okay, yeah, I'm remembering things. Oh, that's right. It's that girl, and then it's that guy, and then like the little lizard. All right, I'm here. I'm back in this.
What did I do? It was No, I was in my new place. So it was only probably about a year and a half ago. It was probably barely a year ago that I binged 1 through 3. No, I wasn't. I don't remember. I was maybe at my old place. But since the pandemic, so post 2020, I binged at least seasons 1 through 3, then watched season 4 when it just came out, and have not yet seen the most recent season. So for anyone who is interested, this particular podcast, this is not going to be a podcast discussing anything recent. There's no spoilers. We are just going to discuss the pilot, but with the kind of interesting thought process that I have seen a lot of it. Morgan's only seen some of it. And honestly, it's been a hot sec since I watched the pilot. So there's a lot to kind of dive into. We have a couple of listeners joining us live in our Patreon chat. So reminder that if you are at the legendary listener level on our Patreon, you can join us live whenever we record these episodes, bearing in mind that you can join in the chat And we often record a bunch of episodes at once and ahead of time, so you can literally see the full episode and rewatch it as many times as you like, because we're awesome.
Exactly. And
Upwards
you'll
of
have
like
the
2 to 3
inside
weeks
track. You'll be
early.
like, I
Yeah.
know what they thought of Barbie days before they release it on the
Everybody
main
else.
feed. I don't want to like brag, but like I already know what they think. I see Danny in the chat said, I may have hypothetically binged it over 2 days, all 5 seasons.
It's very bingeable. It's a really bingeable show, which is something we're going to discuss in relation to the pilot, is how does a bingeable show potentially negatively affect a pilot?
Yeah, I
kinda
want to
chatted
talk
about
about
that with Warrior Nun.
the pilot, and I definitely want to talk about like the way that the pilot ended as we get into it, because I was like, oh, okay.
That's it? Yeah.
But you know what? One of the things I want to talk about coming right out of the gate before I forget is like how hard it was to find this on Netflix for some reason. Like, so it didn't show it. It didn't show up to me like usually, like the shows usually do when they have released a new season. I was like, okay, that's weird. Whatever. I'll search it. So I searched Dragon. Nothing. I don't see it. I'm like, ugh. All right, fine. I just searched Dragon Prince. I still don't see it. I'm like, what is happening? So then I search the dragon. I still don't see it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going insane. And then I look over and I go, wait a minute. Is that the Dragon Prince? It has like the name. I guess it's the name
Does
of
it
the
have
new.
the new Mystery of Erebos?
Yes. So
That's
is
annoying.
in ginormous letters, and the Dragon Prince is in the smallest font that you can think
That's
of
really
on
annoying.
top of it. So every single time when I was putting in Dragon, it popped up, and when I was putting in Dragon Prince, it popped up. But I like my eyes skimmed right over it because
you
it
didn't
was
see it.
that the Dragon Prince wasn't like displayed prominently there. So like I was like, come on, Netflix, like get with it. Make the Dragon Prince like a lot bigger on the screen so that people are like, oh yeah, okay, that's the show I've been watching, because
That's really annoying.
it's so annoying. And you know what, I suspect that it probably was in my like, my watch list or my queue or whatever. I just probably again looked right over it because I didn't know what the new season's like big title was. I was looking for the Dragon Prince. So anyway, note to Netflix. It's moves like this is which are probably why you're not doing so great. Also not
pay
paying
your writers.
actors.
Yeah, look at that. Union strong.
Yeah.
All right. So let's kind of break into the Dragon Prince breakdown. So Dragon Prince season 1 started September 2018. I did not watch it until at least 2020. Morgan, did you watch it back?
I think
it would have been
so.
around that time?
Think, yeah. So I know this because I can kind of, now that I know when it came out, I can kind of extrapolate around what time I watched it because of my life events. So if this came out in September 2018, we must have started watching it right around then, because Mike moved in November 2018. So we watched it somewhere between September and October. So we were like on top of the show like when it came out initially, and then we just went like, and I guess didn't
probably
finish
because you were about to move in together.
Listen,
this
moving,
makes a lot of sense.
Moving is not fun. Let me just tell you this, in case you were ever wondering if moving is a great time. It's not.
It really isn't. There's
really
nothing
not.
about moving that's fun.
Packing sucks. Unpacking sucks. Moving sucks. So I'm sure it got like swept up in moving stuff. But yeah, so we definitely did hop on it right as it came out, and we were like, oh yeah, like we'd heard good buzz about it, and we watched the first couple episodes, and we were like, oh, this is really fun, and then got distracted.
Which again makes a lot of sense because major life things were happening. So the show is on Netflix. It was created by Aaron Ahaz, which I really hope I'm saying that correctly, who is one of the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Justin Richmond. And the two of them have been with the Dragon Prince from start to finish. Currently, Dragon Prince is airing what they call Book 5, Ocean, which until I went back and watched this pilot, I had not realized that there were like the 6 great sources of magic. And one of them is ocean. So
yeah, I didn't
know all of them.
I was like counting them down so I could like try to remember that. Like I was gonna have a quiz on it. I was like, sky, I got this.
Morgan.
Ocean, I got this.
Okay, here, you know it. Now you've opened it. What are the 6 primal sources of magic?
Okay, one was earth.
Yes.
One was sky.
Yes.
One was ocean. One was stars. One was moon.
Mm-hmm.
Was the last one the sun?
It was!
Yeah!
Oh, but then
I
what
got
is
it.
the 7th source?
Oh, that was dark magic.
Dark magic.
Ooh,
Spooky.
spooky.
So let's just dig right into the pilot. So for anyone who is just joining us for fun, this pilot's one of those shorter, like the episodes themselves. I think this was 24-minute episodes. So these are short. And just like with most Netflix things, this is released all at once. So we're calling it a pilot, fully aware it's really more like an episode 1. It is not a true pilot, in my opinion. And we've had that conversation on this podcast many times before about the concept of a true pilot and the concept of how things get changed with Netflix when you have a whole series released at once and how that changes the way that a pilot is perceived. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Morgan, what were your just overall thoughts of the pilot / episode 1?
Yeah, I thought it was really good in the way that it kind of set up and built out the world. So the show is it's a 20-minute, 24-minute animated series. So you don't have like a lot of real estate, and it's like a fantasy setting. So they do that thing where it's like there's this many kinds of magic, and once there was an evil wizard, and now
Very Lord of the Rings opener.
Yeah, it was very Lord of the Rings opener. Like I could feel Kat's eyes glazing from far off.
What's funny is I could feel Kate Blanchett being like, "Yes, you did it the way I would have done it."
Yeah, it was really good, but it was a very info dump. Mike and I were watching it, and I asked him a question in the middle of the info dump, and we literally had to go back because we missed a sentence that was important. I was like, wait, why are the humans banished to that side of the continent? Oh no, we're gonna have to rewind 30 seconds, aren't we? So it's one of those things where for the first 2 minutes, if you don't pay attention, you've missed kind of the premise of the background on the show. But after that, I really think that you get a good feel for the characters. You kind of meet, I'd say, primarily 5 kind of main characters. So it is Ezrian. Is that what his name is? Ezrin, the little boy, and his little lizard pal, of course, Bait, who's you always gotta have to have
the
a little
best.
Yeah, Bait is my favorite. He has a little lizard door that he hops through, like a doggy door. Love him. Then there's his older brother Callum. All right, I pronounced everyone wrong. As if I've only read
seen
it
more seasons than you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as if I've only read it off of subtitles and don't know how anybody pronounces their name. Then there's this is gonna be bad because I don't remember anybody else's names. Then there is the older boy who is a knight or a fighter. Soren, and his sister who reads books like Belle and almost walks into trees, who I think is witchy. Claudia.
Who you think is witchy? Okay.
And then there is the girl elf, right? But her name
Rayla.
And
you have to say Rayla. Rayla. She's Scottish.
She's Scottish.
Which is funny because it is actually her real accent. At first I was like, is she doing a parody of a Scottish accent? But it turns out the voice actress, is actually Scottish. But what she did is she dipped into she talks about it in an interview. She really dips into
She amped it up.
Yeah. So she really steps into I am Scottish and I'm Rayla idea behind it.
I see a really cool comment from Danny in the chat. Danny says, okay, now I know why they have been renewed through season 7, 1 for each source of magic. Ooh.
Yep, earth, fire, water, air. It's the why there are 4. Oh no, there were only 3 Avatar: The Last Airbender books.
Oh, really?
My plan did not work. Weren't there only 3 seasons? There were only 3 seasons. We were on a roll there.
Were there only 3 seasons of Avatar? Oh, yeah, you're right. There were.
Because it was as he was mastering each one, though. So he already mastered air.
He was
First
already
was
good
water,
with air.
Then was earth. Third was fire. Okay.
Fire,
There we go. So we're skipping ahead for a second because a lot of you know we make little documents to help break down the episodes and what we're going to chat about for certain episodes. Some we don't. For pilot pods, we do. So I wrote down all the characters. And I may have added little notes next to them to help Morgan figure out and remember who was who.
Perfect.
So
this is going to really help me.
next to Rayla, in parentheses, it literally says, yes, that's her real name.
Yes.
Or that, yes, that's her real accent.
Wow, I really should have referred to this nice, helpful doc that Amy put together instead of being like, yeah, you know, the little one, and then like
What's funny
the
though
book
is
girl.
I'm on Prince Ezrin, in parentheses, I wrote down the little one.
Oh my god, it's so funny, Amy. I wasn't looking. I swear to you, I wasn't looking at this document, and yet my descriptions are almost like word for word.
They're really good. Soren, my description just says dorky night dude.
Yes, that's exactly how I described it.
On Claudia, I wrote the sister who becomes much more than a sister. Like, yes, she has witchy vibes. Prince Callum, I just wrote in parentheses as one word, not Sokka, because it was really hard for me to discern. I know that is Sokka's voice actor, but this is not Sokka. And it was very hard for me to separate that for probably 4 or 5 episodes. It took me a while. For Viren, so Viren is King Harrow's like mage dude. And Viren, I wrote, oh yeah, that voice definitely says trust me.
Yeah, right.
Because
right.
I don't know if you could tell, but right off the bat, I did not trust that dude. I was like, your voice?
I was like, that dude's bad news. That dude's not.
Yeah, your bad news voice.
That's not a nice man. I can tell.
And then the last one, King Harrow, who in parentheses I put King Hottie. I mean, what?
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I was like, hello, King.
Ooh, hi, Harrow. Good to meet you. And then the Moonshadow Elves, but the only one you need to know is Rayla. So I'll tell you what, let's kind of hop into the characters, because my overall impression of the initial episode, the pilot, is, yeah, you've got 23, almost 24 minutes to get a lot of stuff in. And there are key characters who we've not met yet, who are key and integral to the plot, who we don't meet in the pilot. We don't meet Amaya in the pilot. We hear her mentioned, but we don't meet her. And she's actually mostly the main one, but she's a critical character to the rest of the series. And we don't meet her in this episode. We don't meet a couple other important characters, I think, until the next 2 episodes. But overall, I thought that the episode did as well as they could, given how short of amount of time they had, kind of giving you the ideas about what these characters are. Ezrin is just kind of a dorky little kid. He likes to explore and get into trouble. Callum really wants to impress Claudia. Like, he's a love-struck teenage boy. He clearly doesn't know what he's doing, but he loves art and books. Viren, I think, is the most successful, because right off the bat, you can already tell he's got, like, he has his priorities. He wants to protect the kingdom. He wants to protect King Harrow. He clearly has a good relationship with King Harrow, but first thing you see him doing is kind of looking at this ancient mirror, and is very focused on that. So he definitely has, he's got a little mystery going on with him. I would say that King Harrow is the one who I think he's done the least justice in the pilot, because realistically, he's a very, very king-like character in the rest of the series, and he just kind of comes off as oh, you woke me up out of bed, I'm gonna behead you jokester kind of king, and he really isn't that. And I think he was the only one where I kind of wish that they'd done a little bit more with. Same with Claudia, but Claudia's character is very complex through the first 2 seasons. Claudia is, and again, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but Claudia is the one character that I could never fully read. I never really understood where she stood on a lot of things, whereas everybody else you could figure out. Claudia, she was all over the place in kind of a interesting, fascinating sort of a way. What did you think about the characters?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't want to give away too much about Claudia, but I do vaguely remember that from many years ago when I watched half of the first season, is that like she had a little bit of at least in the first season, like a little bit of an anti-hero or anti-heroine almost journey, where you kind of, you don't really know where she stands on things, and like her magical abilities, if I remember right, become like much bigger part of her character. So yeah, it was so interesting to see her in this pilot episode where like mostly her thing is that like not Sokka, Callum. Callum has a crush on him.
The way Rayla,
Callum.
Like if it ever helps you, Rayla, it's just Callum. Like that's, and which do think Callum is a Scottish or Irish name. I'm gonna look that up. Continue.
Feels right. But like you're basically seeing her
Scottish.
through sort of Callum's perspective, which is like he's got a crush on her. So you sort of see that she's like she's really into books and reading, and that she has some magical abilities. But that magic part of her character obviously becomes, as season 1 at least goes along, not that I've seen all of it, becomes a much bigger part of her character and kind of makes her more of a complex, not fully like heroine, good guy kind of character, which I thought was really interesting.
I think it's interesting as we're discussing this. One of the challenges that even having a pilot pod on this episode is trying to keep it just on the pilot, because the pilot is really it really is an episode 1. It's a start to the series. I would say this is one of the most of the Netflix shows. This is one of the ones that's the most pronounced, where it literally doesn't have a break between 1, 2, 3, 4. It is just a constant stream. This is chapter 1, chapter 2. It really doesn't feel like episode 1, episode 2. And because the overarching plot of season 1 is very clear, it's really hard to draw a line after episode 1 and be like, oh, this is what we thought of the pilot, because it's very it's just so connected. It's really hard to segregate that. And so it's hard to look at it as just a pilot, because if it was just a pilot, I'd be like, oh, Claudia, she's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. Like, she is going to be a very big deal. Or Prince Ezrin, you could totally chalk him up as the dorky little kid who likes to steal jelly tarts. Literally, he and the jelly tarts. The jelly tarts become a big deal at a certain point. I'm
really?
Yes,
no.
The jelly tarts become a massive plot point. It's hilarious, actually.
That is really funny.
And you might think that all the Moonshadow elves are going to become a big deal. Besides Rayla, there's a hot sec where we don't see any other elves.
Whoa.
Things are going to happen to other characters. So it's really challenging to look at this from a pilot perspective, because I don't think this is a true pilot. I think this is one of the only ones that we have done where I can 100% definitively say this is not a true pilot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is like a good part to like jump into sort of like the end of the pilot, which is like when the episode ended, I turned around and I said, that was the ending? Like, that was it? Is this a 2-part pilot? Is this like a 2-part, like, introduction to the show?
Literally looked that up.
Yeah, right? Because it feels incomplete. It does not feel like, even, like, most pilots, like, introduce you to the world, and, like, it's not a full story, right? It's the story of a pilot. But this one didn't even feel like a full pilot. It felt like half of a story. I see Danny in the chat said, I feel like they didn't break down the episodes to have a pilot. They want you to just binge all of them at once.
And I think that is the solid point. I think that with this kind of a show, with this sort of an animation, with the brevity of the episodes, this is the kind of show where you can skip a pilot. You can just go straight to series and write the whole series. And unlike something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they were trying to prove themselves, you already have a creator who has proven himself. He has not only created a complex world in Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it kept going. It is producing books and comics, and they have so many things associated with that world. I don't think Netflix had any concern on whether or not this show would do well. I think that there's something interesting about the animation style. It took me a second to get into. Now that I watch it, it seems second nature to me. But the first episode, I think I tried to watch The Dragon Prince. You know what? I did try to watch The Dragon Prince back way before I actually ended up watching it. And the animation style threw me off. It felt juvenile and childish are not the words I'm looking for, but it felt very basic is also not the word I'm looking for. I don't quite know how to describe how it felt for me, but it was not the level of like hyper detail that I was looking for in an animated series. And because of that, it kind of turned me away from the series, and I just never kept going. I wish that someone had, like us, had been like, you need to stick around, like just get through it. And I wish someone had told me, you are going to absolutely fall in love with this soundtrack. Like, the music will be so perfect for you that you, Amy, need to watch this show. So to any listener out there who was like, I don't know, the animation style is not my thing, I'm going to encourage you to watch the show just for the music, because I gotta tell you, Morgan, I definitely cried many, many times throughout this whole series. Many, many, many times.
Ooh.
Because the music is so good.
It's so
But
funny because
anywho,
it didn't really make much of an impression on me, if I'm being honest, in this like first episode.
not in the pilot. No, I agree.
Yeah, not in the pilot. Like, I'm sure that you're right about the music, but like, I didn't really notice any like big immediate themes coming out of like the show. I don't know if like now that you've watched it, you were like, oh yeah, like they
Yes.
build on that later on.
I picked out a couple of themes, but there there's some moments. I'm sorry, I'm not even talking about the pilot anymore. Later on in the series, where the music so perfectly encapsulates these kind of moments of wonder. And for me, when I'm watching shows like this, those are the moments I'm looking for. The moments where you go, wow, like that is magical, that is beautiful, that is wondrous, that is something that I feel like we lack so often in our daily lives, is a chance to go, wow. And there are some gorgeous moments throughout the series where you get that, and the music just exemplifies it. And it's absolutely stunning music. It's that same sort of sense of wonder that certain episodes of Star Trek give me, and a lot of episodes of Star Trek, but especially more recently with Strange New Worlds, where you sit there and you go, this is just a real treat to be able to exist in this world for just a small segment. But the music really, really exemplifies that in this series. One of the other things that I think exemplifies that for me is the magic system, because you get to see a lot of really cool stuff with the magic in this series. So looking at the pilot.
Yeah, it's a shame because in the pilot you don't get, I mean, you get like the broad outlines of like there was a split and humans are on this side and magical creatures are on this side, and there was a cool dragon and then they killed the cool dragon. I'm mad about the fact that a cool dragon was killed. But you know that there's dark magic. You don't really know how the magic works in the world though. Like you know that Claudia can do some magic, and you know that the elves have some magical abilities because they do that tie thing at the end. And my memory is that the way that they did that tie, like it plays a big part of Rayla's story in the first season. But besides that, like, yeah, there's not a lot of like intro to the magical system in this show, in at least in episode 1.
I think there is, it's just that in that first 2.5 minutes where they were Kate Blanchetting it, there's definitely some key factors in there where if you really wanted to, you could go back and be like, oh, I understand it. Like, for instance, they do talk about how they create the dark magic. They literally steal magic from magical creatures.
Oh, no, not the creatures.
So the magical creatures give up their life forces, and literally that is how humans get magic, is that they draw magic from another creature, and it usually kills that creature. So it is.
I see why the
horrifying.
magical creatures don't like humans very much. I get it. Why they were like,
Dragons
get out of here.
like, yeah, they'd be like, so
get.
yeah, that's in there briefly. And you also, if you watch the animation, you can actually see how that corrupts the individual who's carrying, like his eyes get all black, and so very clearly magic corrupts, at least for humans. So it's kind of interesting because you're like, ooh, now anyone else who's messing around with this magic, they're on the precipice of being corrupted by it, which is always, for me, a very interesting story to tell. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I have a little bit of trauma from like magic is bad, just from Buffy. But
I knew you were gonna say Buffy.
As long as nobody's like, oh my god, magic is just like drugs, and now I need a sweet little taste of magic. I think I'll be okay. I think I might be okay. Oh no, no, not the magic drugs metaphor in a children's show. I can't take it.
It's not a drug, but there's definitely some addictive properties to that there magic. No spoilers, but if you're in the chat, Danny knows. Danny knows.
Yeah, Danny's giving me the tea in the chat for sure.
So what in the world did you like? What in the world did you not like? What in the pilot did you like? What did you not like? So let's pick like pros and cons of the pilot. What are some things you really liked? What are some things you wanted more of or didn't like?
Yeah, I really liked the world building. I thought the world was like right out of the gate really interesting. I liked that we get people from both sides of this conflict so that you're kind of immediately like split loyalties. You're not just all with the humans, you're not all with the magical creatures. I am inclined to always side with magical creatures. If there's a
Mm.
dragon, I'm on that dragon side. Doesn't matter if it's like an evil dragon sitting on a pile of gold. That dragon is just sleeping on his pile of gold and you should leave him alone.
This is one of the most challenging parts of this show. This actually gets really challenging in the later seasons because, I'm inclined to side with the magical creature.
Yeah.
But there are going to be points where you might not want to.
Ooh.
And it's complicated. Sorry, continue. Okay, so that was a pro.
Yes,
Pick
a
a
pro.
con.
A con is that I did feel a lot like I felt in the first season of Avatar, that the first episode feels pretty young. Like it feels like it's targeted at its age group, which is possibly children. So it was one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, this kind of feels like a classic Nickelodeon show to me. But I think if you just watched this one episode and you're like, okay, that's it for me, like I'm not going to continue on, you could come away from it being like, that's too young for me, like that's not for me, that's for children.
I think for me, one of the pros, agreed, is the world building. I think that they do a pretty good job separating this is the world of magic, this is the world of humans. But I think one of the cons for me is that we don't get a chance to see, quote, across the border. We only get an opportunity to see what people have interpreted it as, which, actually, now that I'm saying that, from a pilot's perspective, that's a pro. I don't know if I want to know everything right off the bat. I kind of like the concept of how we have the way that the humans are perceiving the world across the border and how people are perceiving magic. But I think for me, something that I would have liked just a little bit more of is a clarity over who your main characters are. Because if you left this pilot and you asked me, who are the main characters? I would say Rayla, and I would probably actually say Soren. I don't think I would say that either Prince Callum or Prince Ezrin is a main character, where in reality, both Ezrin and Callum and Rayla become like your Harry, Ron, Hermione trio. Those three become the most prominent characters. And yes, Soren and Claudia become important. So does Viren, but they're like the supporting cast. If you asked me, okay, who is your best actress level? Like what is the top tier cast members? I don't know if I would have been able to say it. I would have thought Rayla was now the main character, and she is, but she's technically not. It ends up being like this is Callum and Ezrin and Rayla's story, and it's hard to distinguish that in this pilot. But again, it's not meant as a pilot. It really
It's really not built that way.
It's not. So we're going to just discuss a couple more things. Do you have any other pros? I really liked this.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it made me. I will say we're talking a lot about how it's not really structured as like a traditional pilot, and I would not say that that's necessarily a pro for me. Like I like a good pilot, but I will say on the flip side of that, it did make me immediately want to watch episode 2 because I was like, I didn't feel like that was over. I feel like I need to know what's going on in the story. It didn't feel like I didn't feel like I got a beginning, middle, end to that story. It felt like it stopped halfway through the story. It's like, well, what's going to happen? Like, are they going to attack? Are they going to attack the king? Are they going to kill him? Like, are they going to die? I need to know what's going to die. Yeah. Is everyone going to die? Like, I mean, probably not. It is a children's show, but yeah, it did leave me wanting more in that respect, where I was like, well, I feel like it's like, when the Netflix auto plays the next episode, I was inclined to be like, all right, let's do this. Yep. Let's go to number 2. But then I was like, I'm going to get too confused if I watch number 2. But so I think that was a pro, even though I probably would have preferred like a traditionally structured pilot that felt like it told like a full story, and then I was going to like jump into the world. But it did make me want to go right to episode 2. So in that way, it was successful.
Yeah, I think that was probably its most successful point, is that you wanted to immediately go on to the next episode, because it really did. It just felt like chapter 1. And I gotta tell you, like with Netflix shows, that's kind of how I want it. I'll be really honest. Like I want a bingeable Netflix show. I like, if I'm gonna binge it, I'm gonna binge it. Let's go. My question for you, and we're gonna debate this: would Kat like this episode?
Oh,
I think really. I
It's
don't
tough.
know.
It's tough because I think that like the first 2 minutes would turn her off immediately.
She wouldn't. Yeah.
I feel like she would be like, "I'm sorry, the elves," and then she would
Magic.
slowly, she would
Yep.
slowly like walk back away from the screen. But I think if she made it to the end, I feel like maybe she would be interested because it does feel like it's more of like character
Coming of
based.
age,
Yeah, coming of
coming of
age.
age story.
There's strong characters. You can kind of tell that that the characters are pretty good, even though, it's 22 minutes and we have a lot of ground to cover in the first episode. But like, I feel like you get a good idea of like who Callum is, who Rayla is, who, some of these characters are. You start to get like some buildup of who they are and like want to learn more. So I don't know, from that perspective, like the strong characters makes me think maybe.
See, that's my thought.
But the
As I
fantasy
think
element, I don't know.
she's just gonna be so turned off on.
I don't know
She's not
about the
gonna be.
fantasy.
You know what though? To quote Danny in the chat, it also becomes unexpectedly gay.
There
and
you
it
go.
Really
That
does.
is always a selling point.
Season 2 or episode 2 and 3, man, they get going, and there's some good stuff later on. And again, I've talked about this on actually some more recent episodes. The level of diversity in this show, both in the representation of queer characters and also disabilities, gets really intriguing over the next couple of episodes, and I really enjoyed that. I also think like there is some. Rayla goes through a journey. So does Callum. Ezrin is still young, so his stuff is very normal coming of age stories. But I think Rayla and Callum's stories are really, really solid character arcs, and I think she would enjoy season 1 of The Dragon Prince. I think she would just need to watch it all the way through. So if you're listening and you have been with us for a long time, write us and let us know what you think.
Tweet it, Kat, and tell her to watch.
Yes, tweet it at us and Kat. Let us know what percentage do you think. First off, there's only a 2% chance we're actually going to get Kat able to watch this. But
you
like,
think
if
it's
she
that
was
high?
going to grade 1.5%, if you were going to like grade it, what
And then
percentage
if you were
do
going to
you think
grade
Kat
it
would like it?
on a curve of like, is Kat more or less likely to watch this or Constantine? Definitely.
We're never getting her to watch Constantine. You're never watching Constantine. I will never watch it again. I just happened to not hate it. That was the big deal. And what's funny is there's only 2 episodes in there that are actually real solid, and I was like, this show could be good. And then it was shit.
Look at these 2 episodes. Good for you, show.
Good for you, show.
I like Danny's comment here about the elves in the show, which I don't think I actually noticed at least in the pilot, but I'm not that perceptive.
Yeah.
So Danny says, I really like how they showed the physical differences between the elves and the humans, such as the elves only have 4 fingers. They aren't just humans with pointy ears. They truly feel like a different species. I thought that was really cool.
I agree. And I think like that's going to become a really important factor later on. It's really well done. I think that overall, like this series gets really, really good. And again, it's challenging to talk about it as a pilot. So this is not a pilot pod. This is episode 1 pod. But it's really important. And I think it's a wonderful series that really gets quite good. So my question for you, are you going to now continue to watch the series?
Yeah, I think so. When we finished the pilot and we were like, well, we do need a half an hour show. We usually like to have like a nice little half-hour show in the rotation. I was like, maybe we just keep going with this. So at the very least, it like kept our attention and made us want to keep watching. So I think that's kind of the mark of a good pilot, is that you want to go from episode 1 to episode 2. And even though this wasn't a very piloty pilot, it felt very incomplete. It didn't feel like it really ended. It did make me want to continue watching the first season. So I think that, in that way it succeeded.
I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you a spoiler, but I will tell you, there is a character named Zim. Once Zim appears, you're going to lose your mind and you're going to be so in. You are not going to be able to stop. Ozymandias is his full name, but Zim is his nickname. And Zim will change your life. I will name my next pet Zim, and I'm not kidding.
I am excited to meet Zim because these are big promises you're making.
So, let's see. Yeah, Danny agrees. Danny in the chat says, love Zim. You're going to love Zim. Morgan has no idea what Zim is, but you're going to love Zim.
I have no idea of who Zim is, what Zim's deal is, but I already love Zim.
Yes. You love Zim. Get it?
I love Zim.
I love Zim. All right, sorry, I've been going off on a tangent there. So I think that's going to wrap up our pilot pod. There's not a whole lot more to discuss. Obviously, I kept watching it. I am going to watch season 5, which Danny says is, quote, very gay. So I'm excited.
Ooh,
I forgot that it came out, I'll be really honest.
That's so funny. I do want to ask you one of our usual discussion questions, which is the pilot indicative of the rest of the series? Because I can't answer this because I only know about season 1. But would you say that the pilot is indicative of like the rest of the show? Or do you think that by the time you're in season 4, it feels like a very different show than it felt in the pilot?
It doesn't feel like a different show, but the pacing is drastically different. Episode 1 is very much, here's the characters, each character gets literally 2 minutes. Like if you think about it, like Ezra in the little one, he gets like literally a couple of lines and it's literally all about jelly tarts. Like episode 1 is very, I got to introduce you to characters. As the season progresses and as the series progresses, you will have some episodes where you don't see Rayla, you don't see Callum, you only see Soren, you only see Viren. There are going to be some episodes that are very specific character based or location based, and it is really very much a serialized season. The season follows 1 to 2 large major arcs, and sometimes you follow specific characters only. So I would say that the pilot, which is very rapid fire, is very different than the rest of the season, which turns a little bit less rapid fire and very much more like clear, relaxed storytelling. It's very obvious that the pilot's got to introduce these characters. But then it slows down and you start to get to know the characters. And that's when you will discover, oh, here are my, I would say, here are my 4 main characters, Rayla, Ezra, and Callum, and Viren. Viren becomes very...
oh, wow.
Like Viren and his kids, Soren and Claudia, the 3 of them, you can even loop them together. The 3 of them kind of become an entity. But as far as a plot point, Viren becomes essential to the story. But at one point, Zim becomes a very essential character to the story. You don't know who Zim is, but everybody who's listening, they know who Zim is. And of course, I'm going to name my next pet Zim. You guys know who. You guys know why. But yeah, so there's a lot of really cool stuff. There's some good magic that comes up. You don't really get any taste of magic besides the first opener. You get no taste of what magic is in this world. And I do think that was a con to this episode. I think that there was a potential for just a little bit of a hint on what the magic is in this world, and you really don't get it. And there's a lot of magic. There's a lot of world building that continues to happen in the series. So is it indicative of the kind of stories they're going to tell and the characters? Sure, but the pacing is very different. I think that it's indicative only in that you will know that you're going to like it. You're going to, if you did not like the pilot, you will not like the rest of the series. But if you enjoyed the pilot, you're going to enjoy where the series goes. But I think if immediately you're like, you know what, I don't like this world, I don't like the animation, I don't like the characters, I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot more in the season that you're going to like. With the exception of if you're an individual who's looking for that diversity. If you came to this show knowing that there are queer characters, knowing that there are characters with disabilities and that they do a really good job representing it, that doesn't exist in this pilot. You've got to wait.
Yeah, you got to keep going.
I think it's 2 or 3 episodes. So I think if you were the person who came to the show told where the series was going to go, then it doesn't matter how this first episode was. But I think the first episode gives you at least an idea of the tone of the show pretty effectively. You've got your dark storytelling, you've got some mystery, you've got some quirkiness. I don't think that this episode is overly quirky. I think I was wondering, I think when I look back at it, I was wondering, like, oh, wasn't the first episode really dorky? Wasn't it really quirky? And it really wasn't. I think that it really shares the tone of the series pretty well. So I would say pacing, no. Tone, yes.
Yeah, and I would say the pacing kind of thing between like, the pilot and like the later part of the series, that feels very like Avatar-ish to me. Whereas like I think the first couple episodes in Avatar: The Last Airbender, I wouldn't say have the same pacing as like the show towards the end of the series. I think it's very different. It feels like a very different show in terms of like pacing and subject matter, even if the characters are kind of the same. So I would kind of expect that to be the case here as well. Yeah, Danny says it's totally worth sticking with, which
100%.
I think it's also nice to watch a show that is like a half-hour show that's like 22, 24, 25 minutes, and just like, oh, okay, it's not like oh, we're gonna watch this show, it's an hour and a half for some reason, even though it's a comedy or whatever. Some of like the shows have got, especially the streaming shows, have gotten so long. I like a nice 20, 30 minute show that I could like squeeze in. Yeah.
An appetizer that's also a meal. Like a margarita pizza appetizer. This is a great margarita pizza appetizer.
And it's also really easy to binge. So, like, you can squeeze in an episode here or there if you want. That's nice. Or if you want to binge it, like, you could finish, like, the whole first season in, like, a couple of hours, really.
Well, yeah, apparently Danny said that, Danny did what? All 5 seasons in 2 days? Yep, that's what.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's super
it's
doable.
Possible.
This is a I binged the whole series on a weekend thing. 100%.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can definitely do that, which I kind of like. It's like, okay, if I want to get up to speed really quick, I can do that, or if I can like string it out and have a watch one over like a little lunch break or something, and like that's fine too. So I do like the compactness of the show is nice too.
It's nice. All right, so I think that is going to wrap it up for our pilot pod. We don't have any feedback because we kind of decided to do this a little bit last minute, but if you would like to add your thoughts to the Dragon Prince pilot, anything about the series, do us a favor, write in the subject if you have spoilers about anything past season 1-ish. No, past the pilot. I don't want Morgan to get spoiled because the three of us all read the email. I have obviously seen it all. Kat could care less. But Morgan, I don't want her to figure out who Zim is until we figure out who Zim is.
I gotta see who Zim is for myself.
You're gonna be like, yep, I get now. Amy was spot on. I understand.
I'm really excited to meet Zim. This is gonna be my goal for the show. Is gonna be like, it's Zim time.
It's Zim time. So you can email us, thelegendaryladies@gmail.com. Tweet us, legends_podcast. You can join the Patreon, patreon.com/thelegendaryladies. You could have been joining in like Danny did. You could have watched this live. You could have participated, and that's if you're at the legendary listener level. If you are at the $5 level, you still get all kinds of extra episodes, behind the scenes stuff. I'm going to definitely post my little character descriptions. You can see, everybody knows my documents get real quirky and fun. So I'll post that for all of our patrons to look at. You guys can join us for a small amount of time, join us for a long amount of time. We just love having people who are joining in and participating, and you guys are super awesome. Thank you to all our patrons who are patrons. Thank you for joining in. So fun.
And a reminder that we've started live streaming we started recording our episodes with our beautiful faces on them and putting them up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to, if you're one of those people who likes to, instead of like listening to a podcast in your car, maybe you want to like throw it on the TV while you're doing something else and like watch it. You can do that now. So you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@thelegendaryladies and hit that subscribe button. And then you'll know when we drop our new episodes on the channel.
And if you like us on iTunes, add a 5-star review.
We love that.
To see those. We will read them. Obviously, this is very different than what we did when we did the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. So we want to hear your feedback. If you're loving these episodes, if you have an episode you want us to do, if you have a pilot pod.
That was actually going to be my next thing is like, we are always trying to figure out what pilot pod we're going to do next. We want to throw in a nice pilot pod. This was like a little bit of kismet that like the new season had just come out. So we're like, why not? And we knew that Kat wasn't going to want to watch it.
So we picked a week we knew Kat wasn't going to be here.
This seems great. This seems perfect. But yeah, we want to hear from you. What pilots do you want us to watch? Because sometimes we're like, we don't remember what's on our list. It's a long list. So
it is a long list.
If you tell us what you want us to watch, we can throw that to the top.
And we'll do classic ones too. So people, I know that I
I'm gonna.
wanted to do Alias for
I
a
was gonna
really
say
long time.
we're gonna force Kat to watch Alias at some point because that's been
Yeah.
the top of my list.
Yeah, Alias. What's funny is I actually went back and watched the 12 Monkeys pilot,
Hmm.
and it might be that I've seen it a bunch of times, but it didn't hold up for me as good as I had remembered
Oh,
it. But
interesting.
that might only be because I've seen it a bazillion times.
Yeah, that's fair.
However, I could watch the Lost pilot a bazillion times and it's
Oh,
fine. I
that
just
pilot's so good.
the 12 Monkeys pilot is paced differently than I thought it was. It's fine, but I
Hmm.
definitely, it might have also been that I was watching it with other people where I'm like, please like the show, please like the show, please
Do
like
you
the show.
like
And so
it?
there's like
Do you
that
like
level of
it?
anxiety. Do you like that? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. And I was like, oh, it's okay.
When you're
It's
just
great.
staring at somebody watching something, you're like, "What?
Please like
That
it.
part was great, right? Did you like that part?
Did you see that part? That's
Did you
really
see that?
important. And they're like, it was literally a watch. What
Did
about
you
this watch was
did you
important? I was
note
like,
that?
it's important.
Did you note that? Did you notice it? Did you
It's like, did you
keep it in
notice
your
the
head?
chemistry? Do you remember the chemistry between the characters? Did you
The
like that?
second somebody like looks down at your phone, you're like, "Oh, do you not like
You
it?"
don't like it? We would never be able to watch pilots with Kat like in real life because
No,
that would
it
be
would.
my problem. It's like, do you not like it? Why are you
Amy
looking
and
at
I
your
would
phone?
just start crying. I
Only where
recently.
Kat
I
looks at her phone all the
I
time.
know. Oh my God. I recently convinced Mike to start watching Justified because the new they just did like a spin-off show of Justified. It's
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like a new season, but he's like in a different location. So I was like I've been talking to him for years about how much I love Justified and how much
Yep.
I want him to start watching it. So yeah, we had that experience of like the first episode and I was like, "Do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it?"
Oh man, that's always the most challenging. That's my question corner for our listeners. What is a pilot of a TV show that whenever you watch with somebody, you get that anxiety of please
Yes,
like
where
it,
you're
did
like,
you like it
Did you
episode?
did you like it?
Did you like it like I like it? Or a movie? Like
Yeah,
tell us what it is.
what's
Email
what's your
us.
piece of media that you're too invested in and it's actually stressful to introduce other people to?
Because what if they don't
Because
like
what if they
it?
don't like it?
What if you're like, no wait, we'll just wait longer.
What if you look over and they're playing Candy Crush? Is that going to crush you?
Conversely, has there ever been one of those moments where you've watched something like that, movie, TV show, whatever, and the person, the whole time you got that anxiety, and the person was like, that was amazing?
Yes. Oh,
One?
that's the best feeling when you're like you introduce and then like it's over and you're like, what did you think? And they're like, that was the best thing I've ever seen.
Can you think of one? For me, most recently, I introduced my friend to How to Train Your Dragon for the first time.
Ooh,
She'd
those
never
are.
seen it. And
I've
the
never
whole
seen
time
the
I'm
first
like,
one for some reason.
and oh, what?
I've only seen the second one. I don't know. It doesn't make
Morgan!
sense. It doesn't make sense to me either.
Ah, first
like,
off,
It was like somebody, like one of my friends wanted to go
Oh,
see the second one,
dagger
and
to the
I'm
heart.
like, I just like to go see movies. So like, I'm really easy to like movies, concerts. I'm easy to convince to do pretty much anything. So, so they were like, "Oh yeah, do you want to go see How to Train Your Dragon?" I was like, "I haven't seen the first one." They were like, "That's fine." I was like, "All right, I guess it's fine." I was
you
a
like the
little
second
bit.
one?
I actually did really like the second one, and I was like, "Oh, I got to go back and watch the first one," and I forgot. So I've actually never. I've only seen the second one. I've never seen
The
the first one.
first one, you will cry more than once. I hope. Now I have the anxiety of will you cry? But yeah, no, I introduced my friend to it, and at the end, I was like, and she was like, that was amazing. It's one of my new favorite movies. I was like, oh, thank God, because me too. And can you think of any for you?
I think Lost actually. When we
Yes.
watched Lost for the pilot pod, well, we were only planning to watch Lost for the pilot pod. We were planning to watch the pilot and nothing else. And after I watched it with Mike because he's like, "Oh, I've never seen Lost." We watched the first episode. We watched the pilot. We got finished, and he was like, "Can we keep watching this?" And I was like,
Yes.
I was like, "Yes, we can." And then we got all the way to the end, and we still somehow have to watch like one or two more episodes. So in some way, we never stopped watching Lost.
Wait, the end of the first season or the end of the series?
The end of the series.
You did the whole series? I keep trying to rewatch it, and I can't make it past episode 6.
Oh, so we did the whole series. We loved it. We
Oh my God.
started to stall out in season 6 because spoiler alert, season 6 is like kind of medium. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. It's not great.
Nope, that's
So
a product
like
of the writer's strike.
yeah, we started like going downhill. Actually, I think season 3 was a product of the writer's strike. I think the writer's strike happened somewhere around season 3 or 4.
I think. But I
think,
think
yeah.
that was like a remnant of it, is that once like you started building a sand castle with sand, and then you started building it with like really weird like styrofoam,
To be
and
fair,
then
I
you're
thought
trying to keep
season
building it.
like
It didn't
yeah,
work.
I thought season 4 and season 5 were really strong. It was just season 6 when they started. I don't want to get too into spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched
It's been
Lost.
like 15 years.
I know, my God. But like
Not the
season
flashbacks
6
and the
when they
flash
start doing
forwards,
the
the flash
sideways,
sideways.
the slash
Yeah,
sideways where it started to lose us. So we still
yeah.
have like a couple episodes left to watch, and then the finale. So it is really funny though, because like he's watched almost the entire show except for the finale. So I always have to be like careful of like series finale spoilers, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
like been 15 years and we watch almost the entire show. We just got to rip that band-aid off at some point.
Did you like the relationship between Sawyer and Juliet?
I loved it.
Then the finale will make you sob like a baby.
Oh no, so I've seen the finale.
Oh, you have?
Yes, no, I've seen
Okay.
it. No, I watched Lost when it was like airing. I was a big Lostie. That's what they were called, right? I don't know. Yeah, no, I was a big Lost fan. So when we watched the pilot pod, I was so excited that Mike wanted to continue watching because I was such a big fan of Lost and I love Lost so much. And when he was like, "Can we keep watching?" I was like, "Yes, this is my dream. This is all I've ever wanted. Let's keep watching." And then we watched so many seasons. Like we got through the series so quickly and then stalled out right at the end, which is very us.
I have got to find where is it? When did it finish? It finished in 2010. So in 2010, we had a big party for the Lost finale in my dorm room, and I made a Lost cake.
Did you really?
I made a Lost cake.
That's amazing. Do you have pictures of the Lost cake?
I have a picture, and I'm looking back through my
I
Facebook
remember this because
trying to find
I
it.
was commuting to the city at the time for my job. And we had like a little party, me and a couple of friends, to like watch the Lost finale. And then we like watched the finale and then we talked about it for like hours afterwards, it felt like. And I remember being late to work the next day and like dead on the train, like so tired, and like being like, and then I bumped into somebody I knew from college from like the year or two before. And I was like, "No, it was the Lost finale, man. I'm so tired."
I've got to scroll all the way back. I'll tell you what, when I find it, I'll post it on our Patreon.
Yes,
you guys want to see my
post.
Lost cake?
I want to see this cake so badly.
Oh my God. It was okay. I might almost be there. Hold on. So I'll tell you, Morgan, why don't you start wrapping us up while I look for this cake?
So as we mentioned, you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@thelegendaryladies. You can find us on Instagram @thelegendaryladies. You can find us on TikTok @Legendary Ladies Pod. You can find us on Twitter, as you always could, at legends_podcast, except it's a new account, so you should follow it. You should leave us some nice reviews on iTunes and anywhere you find your podcasts. And you should email us at legendaryladies@gmail.com.
Correct. That is it.
Obviously support us on Patreon. Oh my God. Patreon.com/legendary ladies. Or the Legendary Ladies. I'm so sorry. While Amy, I'm sorry, is scrolling, you should support Kat's new Kickstarter.
Yes.
You can find it on her on all of her channels, but check out her Twitter @ComicUno, and you'll see the link to support her new not safe for work spicy Kickstarter. It's Beast in Snow. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram @Mojotastic, and you can find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio, where we're currently in the middle of reviewing the new animated series, My Adventures with Superman. So if you've been watching that on the artist formerly known as HBO Max, now Max, it's so weird to be like, are you watching it on Max? Like, it sounds strange. But if you've been watching that show on Max and you want to get into some discussions, you should join us over there. And then Amy, while you are scrolling, What are you up to?
You guys can find me on Instagram, Amy_hip. I have a project coming up that I cannot tell you about that is local to San
Top
Diego because it has
secret.
not been officially released yet. Once it has been officially released, I will tell you about it. If you happen to make it to Comic-Con this past like 2 weeks ago, thank you for coming. Please reach out to me because I met so many cool people at Comic-Con and never got a chance to actually follow up with them. I am still scrolling and I cannot find the lost cake. It's here. Where am I at? I'm at 2011. I got one more year to scroll. Hold on. I'm still scrolling. Well, we were not talking about Lost anyway, so I'll tell you what, maybe I'll share it next. Man, they're all marching band photos and I absolutely love it. Oh my God.
That's so funny.
I
Now
gotta
it's a
tell
trip
you,
trip down
marching
memory
bands,
lane.
This was the best. How did I go back to I think I added a year? Oh no, I'm so
Oh,
confused.
no.
I'm
What's
so
happened?
confused. Man, Facebook, you're not making this easy. Okay,
It
so
never
I think that's
does.
going to wrap us up. I am going to give up. Oh, kayaking. So many good photos. Oh, it was the year that I was a WoW leader. Oh,
What's his?
Mustangs
Wait, I'm sorry.
Forever, 807. Oh, yeah. Wow. Week of Welcome. Arguably
Oh,
Cal
okay.
Poly's coolest event. So it's a week-long orientation, and you have 3 WoW leaders who are like the me's, the people who are like, hi, welcome to Cal Poly. You're going to love it here. And so, like, it's a week-long event where they have, I don't know what it is now, but this is what it was then, where you have, like, orientation things you go to, like drug awareness and sexual harassment awareness and things you need to know, how to get around the campus. This is how do you schedule things. So important orientations, but then literally get to know slow. So, like, this one, we took them all kayaking, and it's like a big
Ooh,
event where
that's
you
fun.
get to pick which ones you want to do. So we did kayaking, we did rock climbing. Oh my God. We did, like, dinner. We had the coolest things. Our WoW group ended up being some of the most important people in my life. Like, so when you're a WoW leader, you then have the people who are in your WoW group, and it was like 15. And because we were also doing band camp that week, all members of the band WoW are also in band camp. So if you're in a WoW group, all your WoWies is what we called them. All your WoWies are band people. So literally we spend the first 3/4 of the day doing WoW stuff, and then we go straight to band camp. So it was a very long week for a lot of us, but it was really, really fun. Oh my gosh, Disneyland with my roommates who hated me. We started out being okay, and then I was
memories.
apparently too weird for them, and they really started disliking me. Pretty
Oh,
aggressively, actually,
college.
to the point where I was like, one day I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to go see the new Batman movie. The next day they get home, I'm like, where were you guys? And they're like, we went to see the new Batman movie.
Oh no!
Without me. Yeah, it was unfortunate. But to be fair, I was not the greatest roommate. I just never got trained how to be a clean person. And so looking back at that, I respect a lot of the choices that they made regarding me. I'm better now.
That's okay.
I'm a much
one of
better
my
roommate now.
favorite memories is, like, I feel like everybody has those sort of like college, the college drama.
Yeah.
And we had a friend of ours that we had like a falling out with, and then like right before the end of college, right? Like we all lived together in this in this sort of apartment, and she finished up her finals before the rest of us. And when she left, she took the shower curtain and all the toilet paper. And that is a level of pettiness to which I still aspire. My one friend came back and she's like, could I shower in your shower? And I was like, yeah, but why? She's like, I don't have a shower curtain.
Oh my God.
It
That's
cost like
funny.
$10 to buy a shower curtain, but she had to,
Man.
but she took it. Listen,
That's the level of petty
I get
like.
it. It's great.
Okay, so I think we're going to officially wrap this up. We stopped talking about the Dragon Prince like 15 minutes ago, but
We
if
just
you
took a nice
subscribe
little
to our
trip down
Patreon,
memory lane.
we love talking like this. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you all enjoyed the Dragon Prince. We really did. Let us know. Do you think Kat will? We'll find out. And stay tuned. We've got some pretty cool episodes coming up, including some book-related episodes, which I hope go well.
Exciting.
And Kat will be discussing her new comic series in a couple of weeks. So subscribe, stick around. We love y'all, and stay legendary.